co-hosts with me, KRICH and AFOX.
Woohoo!
Hi,
everybody.
everybody.
Well, tonight, if you have not been on One Away Praise Radio prior to the start of our show, we have a treat for you indeed. We have Pastor Ken and Lisa Loring on the line, and they are with us, and they are going to be sharing some awesome information about the marriage that they have, is the longevity, what's making it work, what they can tell us that's going to help us in our relationships. And so we are just so excited. And if you had an opportunity to listen to him on the Angela Foxworth show from 8 to 9, then you definitely know he's a man of God doing awesome ministry. And we just want to thank you both for being here with us tonight.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. It's our blessing and honor to be with you, and we're very grateful that you invited us on.
Thank you. Well, I tell you what, before we go ahead and get started, I did want to just do a quick shout out. We had a sponsor for this month, and we just want to say for Paparazzi Jewelry Consultant Stephanie Ville with Save and Slay, she has done an amazing job. She has amazing products. Actually, I'm wearing a beautiful choker that I got. The Paparazzi Jewelry, if you can see it on Facebook Live.
Yes.
We love that.
She is
For
wearing it
$5.
too. Go,
For
ALOVE.
$5, so you cannot beat that. To be a hot wife, being economical, and being hot looking.
That
So,
is awesome.
Thank
yes.
you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. So definitely tune in. We'll give you some more information on how to get onto her site if you want to purchase some things. But we definitely want to just move forward into the show and get this conversation started. So, AFOX, can you please pick up where you guys left off from the AFOX show?
Let me tell you, it was absolutely amazing. Once again, I just want to thank Pastor Ken Loring. But let me tell you, one thing he talks about is his Proverbs 31 wife, okay?
All right.
Because
All right.
that is how he rolls. And this beautiful young lady, which is First Lady Lisa Loring, we are welcoming both of you to the show. We're so excited that you are with us. And we want to talk about marriage ministry. You know, you talk about how important it is. The marriage is the foundation of the family, is it not? It really is. And with that being said, number one, would you guys mind giving us a little bit on how you guys met?
Simply, when I had we moved our location since with our church, but when I had a church in a former location, she was a resident not too far out back, and in the strip mall where my church was, at the end was a store that she always went to, and I was out emptying the trash one day, actually, and saw her walk by, and I said, why don't you come to our church this Sunday? And she turned to me and said, and I didn't even think about it at the time, she said, it's Easter this Sunday, and I always go to church on Easter. So, yeah, I'll see you Sunday. Bible study Wednesday night, 6 a.m. prayer.
Aww.
That's awesome.
That is wonderful. Okay, so now that you're 17 years in, okay, you have got 17 years of some good, solid knowledge of what marriage is all about. Number one, communication. How significant is communication in marriage?
You kind of can't be married without it. There's different levels of it, though, and sometimes when things are not so comfortable and we're not walking in our happy places, we have to learn how to keep communication in a safe zone sometimes. And you know, you got to kind of figure out, and how do they say, choose your battles wisely, and kind of tread carefully and have regards for the other person's feelings.
Yeah, and when we do raise our voices, we call that intense communication.
So it does happen. It does happen. So what is your take on it, guys? How important is communication to you guys?
Oh, absolutely. Like she said, there's no marriage without communication. But I guess like we always talk about on this show, it's so many different forms of communication. Knowing how to be able to recognize different communication styles in each partner.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this, so with meeting each other like you did, inviting her to church, how has your communications changed from the year 1 through year 17?
Wow, good question.
Well, go ahead. Okay.
Well, I do want to add that, you know, by the answer I gave him about going on, I'll see you on Sunday,
Mhm.
I had a lot of me to work on. So my vocabulary actually changed with my coming back to the Lord and everything.
Mhm.
I had to work on that. So, it was kind of a different experience because my vocabulary really had to change as I was coming back into the church. And, so, you know, we had to.
Thank you, Mecca.
He's distracted me. Go ahead.
Just saying, Angela, how hot you are.
Good job, Pastor Ken, good job.
Form of communication change.
Well, I mean, what facets do we want to cover? Because we have been how to communicate when there is no communication. We had to get some skills. I mean, in our marriage, let me give you a quick little synopsis background. We weren't married 9 months when my nieces, my 2 nieces, and my nephew wound up homeless. So they came to live with us after 9 months of just being married.
Wow.
So we weren't even through our newlywed year, and this is why I say why I have such an awesome wife. They were my biological side of my sister. It was my nieces and nephew, and they went through some incidents in their life, and it was like we weren't 9 months married, and like I say, she's my Proverbs 31, because most ladies, you would pick up, she was in her car, and I picked up the phone, and I said, man, my nieces and nephew have nowhere to go. Can we, you know, and I couldn't get the sentence out where she said, just tell me where they are, and I'm going to get them.
Amen.
Get their
Amen.
stuff ready, they have a home, you
That's
know.
beautiful.
And that's how easy it was with Lisa to bring them. I mean, I didn't have to go through a speech. She took that load off me, and she loved on those kids like our very own, which they were, you know. And then also
Yes.
I was involved in foster care along with Lisa, and we raised some respite care and some foster care children in the middle of that as well. And then, as you heard Mimi on the earlier show, she's kind of like, of course, she was up in age, already an adult, but she's like our spiritual daughter as well. So most of my relevant group from the courthouse and all these kids from the detention center and everywhere else, we're like one big family. And,
That's awesome.
and
That's great.
But we'll take your lead as you want. But in our marriage, with that kind of pressure in the ministry, all the things a pastor faces and all the pressures that ministry brings about into a marriage, we did lose our time of communication. We did lose our connection in our marriage. We had to go get counseling. We had to get some communication skills when we were communicating. And, you know, and that's where we got on this roller coaster merry-go-round journey of having to learn how to communicate even when you didn't feel like talking to each other. And there were times we had to use, get this, guys, one of the skills that our counselor taught us and our bishop taught us and our pastors taught us is, you know what, at least write each other a note. And we actually got to that point in our marriage. We weren't talking to each other. And we had to write notes to one another because if we had so much anger in our marriage towards one another for a season, and a pretty long season, that we actually had to write notes to one another, go to counseling together, and try to get a grip back on our marriage again.
That's awesome that you brought all those points up, because I think a lot of times people think that being married, you go into a fantasy when you fall in love and it's all beautiful and you want to be around each other all the time. You want to talk on the phone all the time, but there does become times where life happens and then, you know, things change and you're not always lovey-dovey. You're not always wanting to be in each other's face talking and laughing, but through everything else, it's really good that you brought up just being able to go to counseling and have that, you know, wisdom from a third party to be able to help each other see each other's point of view. You know, it's really important. So I'm glad that you gave us their widespread thought process, and even including, you know, just doing notes. That's a big thing that a lot of people, I'm sure, can take advantage of.
And I'm glad that you mentioned, you know, being in the ministry, I think we have a false reality of what
Yes.
ministers and
Yes.
minister wives go through.
Yes.
We assume that everything is perfect, or, you know, as perfect as can be. And we assume that, you know, we talked about submissive wives last week, so she's a submissive wife, and she submits to her husband and does what he says. And so I think a lot of times we take for granted that they're human, they're a man and a woman, and so they have, you know, issues and problems just like anybody. And so I think a lot of times that we have a false pretense of
Yes.
what ministers have to go through and the weight that you carry, because you have a not only do you have your family, but you have a flock that you
Yes.
oversee,
Yes.
and you have to care for and bring with you everywhere you go. So not only is she sharing you, you know, not only does she have you, but she's sharing you with a lot of people in the world. So yes, it's a lot of work.
And actually, I'm glad that you brought up that point, because one of the things we know in the Word, you know, when we're talking about, you know, the pastor and the wife and the minister, and you're supposed to, you know, be able to be the example. In my mind, I would think ministry in and of itself is challenging. Mm-hmm. Just because, like she said, if you do have, you know, your family, have there been times where you felt like he gives more to the church than the attention to you? And if that is the case, how were you able to handle that?
My life just got hot.
You told me I could be real, Pastor.
They're like, uh-oh.
Go for it with it.
You brought up some very, very, very valid points, as if you walk through it yourself. You described it just the way it actually is. And yes, there are times when you just think you're going on a date, and my husband tells me, "Oh, by the way, we're meeting so and so for lunch," and I have to stop and think, okay, I get the initial heat that comes with that kind of thing, and then I realize that the position that we're in, and then you know, I realize that we wouldn't be meeting with people unless he made appointments to, and it's not going to always be comfortable, but as long as we figure out how to get some kind of time in somewhere in between, as long as I know that there's going to be some kind of downtime, even if it's just hanging out at home, just a couple of us for a little while. You know, we need the people. We have to meet with the people. Life is hard enough between working, ministering, trying to meet everybody's needs. And we're not in a position to send ministers to minister to people. When they call my husband, they call my husband. So his phone might ring in the middle of the night, and then he might actually have to leave. Or even better, I might have to go with him, even though I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, you know, and that kind of thing. We've gone through all that kind of thing, and I truly believe that with the maturity that comes with nothing but age, I'm slowly getting more confident. Slowly getting more accepting, and I'm slowly not triggering so quickly and fast.
All right, I'm going to ask the hard question. Pastor Lisa Lauren, I'm going to ask the hard question. I just have to ask, because I know as in the ministry, and your husband is the head and the pastor, there are many women pulling at the husband. How do you handle that?
There are many women who, what?
Pull on your husband, and not for always prayer.
She just did.
You know, I think we're into a lot of prayer.
Keep it real.
I try to be a leader by example, and in all honesty, I'm not I try not to be the dramatic type, at least outside of the house. Inside the house, you know what? Just like you brought up a good point about just because we're ministers, we're pastors, and that we're in a Christian marriage doesn't take away. There's probably more discomfort, and I don't know if I'm permitted to say it like this, but that it seemed like Satan would want to attack us. Life was a lot easier before I came back to the Lord earlier on in my life. It was a lot easier. So I feel, yes, how do I handle when people are pulling on my husband, not necessarily for prayer? I go into prayer. I ask the Lord to show me what my discomfort is. Because a lot of times I'll feel discomfort, but I can't put my finger on it. And then I ask the Lord to show me, because, the last thing I want to do is act out like a crazy in front of to somebody, and maybe I'm wrong, So I have to be real careful. And then if I do feel discomfort, I pray that the Lord show me how to carefully talk to my husband and, discuss it amongst ourselves, because once he finds out that I'm not comfortable with something, he will do what he can to reposition himself to where we try to minister, but we don't, he'll start bringing me everywhere. If it's a matter of him being out there and me not being available, he'll make more appointments when I'm available to minister with somebody, so that they'll know that, we're solid.
That's good.
That's awesome.
I just might tag on to that. We now, with, I guess, our, as she says, age growth and maturity in ministry, we put those safeguards in place, to make sure that it is prayer that they're needing and not something else. And I have learned to listen. I was in ministry a long time. I was single a long time before Lisa and I got together. And, so sometimes our male ego thinks, okay, I got this, I've got them, our testosterone and our ego will get, I've got this, I understand what's going on. And all the meanwhile, the wives are trying to, that intuition and that radar that they have. They're trying to, give us the heads up on what is actually going on. And then we try to make them, kind of give them a false sense of security sometimes, saying, okay, we got this, I hear you, and all that. But then sometimes we go in that course of in which we were intending to anyway. And in that time, I've learned that she's just, and this is what we have to regard, and I want to say this respectfully and carefully, we have to get to that place in our marriage, and we did, and thank God we're there, where there's a 10-year difference between her and I. I have much
I'm 10
more,
years older.
And I thank you for it, but they can look but in that, so I had to get to the point, and the counselors that we had taught me, saying, she's not your church member,
Wow, that's good.
I like that.
That's good.
And that's something that I was such in the habit of mentoring and teaching and preaching and ministry that times I would begin to teach her, look at her and not look at her like it, but treat her as a student, not treating her as my equal, not treating her as, her wisdom that she has. And therefore, it would begin up to me trying to be pastor in my house, and we all know that doesn't work. But the Lord is faithful to know how to humble you and to let you realize that, wow, she does have such wisdom. She does have such understanding and compassion and care that will get you to open your ears, open your heart, and want to hear everything she has to say. And but it wasn't always like that.
Yes.
And definitely we went through those harsh times where we had to get counseling for our whole family. And I think that's one of the most things we can iterate right here is don't wait till you might have a hill of a disagreement going on in your marriage, but don't wait till that hill becomes a mountain. Go already when those signs start to show up.
Amen.
That's great.
Amen.
Go to that pastor, go to the family counselor, get that help you need. And one thing that helped me is I watched that movie years ago called Fireproof. And
Yes.
that movie Fireproof
Yes.
helped
That was
me.
so good.
Awesome. Awesome.
you know, and so we went through that, and if we want to get into more of that, we can, and I think in that we will help some couples maybe that are listening or watching by the social media, and what we can do to help those people in their times of trouble that they might be going through with the disagreements and divisions might be in their home right now.
Amen. And I think that is very important. So we're going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we want to delve in and expound on overcoming, you know, the trying times of your marriage, because people definitely need to know that getting over that hump is pretty much what I call it. So you guys are listening to Hot Wife, Hot Life, right here on 108 Praise Radio with Pastor Ken and Lisa Loring. We are having a wonderful time with me, AFOX, KRICH, and ALOVE, and we will be right back in just a few.
Yes.